This is Pod Populi, podcasts for the people.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to replace professional medical advice or be a substitute for therapy. Please contact a mental health professional as needed. If you are in need of urgent or emergency health care, please contact your medical and/or mental health provider, call 911, or go to your nearest emergency room. The information presented in this podcast does not reflect the opinions of those with whom Dr. Ellick might be affiliated as an employee, consultant, or colleague, past or present. Hello, and welcome to another episode of From Mayhem to Mindset with Dr. Laura. I am your host, Dr. Laura Ellick. It is so nice to be here. I have a guest who his story is just absolutely going to blow you away, because as I started reading it, I was just kind of like, wow, how is this guy here? And I had 5,000 questions, and I'm thinking, I'm going to drive Kyle away before he even has a chance to open his mouth. So let me just tell you a little bit about our guest today so you can be as in awe as I am, and then we'll say hi to Kyle. Kyle Fields is a pastor, podcast host, and multi-talented creative, definitely, whose journey has been anything but ordinary. Diagnosed with schizophrenia, he has faced the darkest battles of mental illness, including multiple attempts on his life. But through it all, music became his lifeline. It didn't just save him, it gave him purpose. Determined to help others find healing the way he did, Kyle became a DJ using music to reach people on a deeper level. His passion for connection and transformation led him to podcasting, where he now hosts That's Life, the Survivor Series, Sunday Evening Reset, and a members-only show called The Members Lounge. Beyond his work in broadcasting, he's also a singer, songwriter, and producer, blending his love for storytelling with his gift for music. Originally from Indiana, Kyle now calls Central Florida home, where he continues his mission of bringing light to those who need it most. Welcome to the show, Kyle Fields.
Hello, thank you for having me. It is so nice to be here.
I have no clue where to go after that introduction, except to say Kyle and I worked together on a couple of episodes for his podcast. And I have to tell you, if you haven't checked out his podcast, you absolutely must, because the questions that he asks and the topics that he is covering are ones that we all should be able to have conversations about, but we just haven't been doing it. But Kyle, tell us a little bit just about your story. It's amazing.
Well, like you said in the intro, I am originally from Indiana, born and raised Southern Indiana. I've been down here since 2009, so I pretty much lost my country accent, but it comes back from time to time. I always knew that there was something wrong with me up here in my head. I mean, even from an early age, and they say that schizophrenia is usually diagnosed in either early teens or later on. But I remember at the earliest age I had hallucinations was at 9 years old.
That is young. That's young.
Very young. And I mean it happened for about a year, like really, really bad. And I chalked it up to my imagination. I was like, there's, I'm a kid, but I was seeing things like piles of dead Union soldiers piled up in a basement, like stuff that a 9-year-old should not be imagining or seeing, And I talked to my mom about it. She's a very Midwest Baptist Christian, doesn't believe in those kind of diagnoses. And then it got really, really bad for me. I'd say when I was 16, my mom, with her husband at the time, took my two little sisters on a vacation up to Maine. I didn't go with them. I had to work. I was working full time at McDonald's. So I stayed home. It was, excuse me, it was about 3 days into me being at home by myself, and it started. I started feeling. I started feeling like there was somebody outside, somebody watching me, and it just that feeling. I ended up calling the cops 10 times in the week that they were gone, that my mom was gone, and even when she came back, and police department talked to her, they're like, "Listen, he called 10 times, and there was nothing, and it was the same thing every single time. You really need to get him help." Didn't happen. So I pretty much raised myself from 16 on. At 19, I decided that I wanted to move as far away from Indiana as possible. The family that was up there wasn't family to me. They didn't act like family. They didn't treat me like family. So I said, well, why am I here? There's nothing for me here. So I decided I didn't want to move all the way out to California. That just sounded like a drag. Florida sounded way better. So I moved here, and I had no idea what I was going to do when I got here. I mean, I bounced around from couch to couch. I worked at Universal, McDonald's, I mean, everything out in Orlando. And then finally I moved to um, where I am now, Central Florida. Uh, I'm in Leesburg now, but um, it was a long, long journey. Over the years, as I got older, the hallucinations and the thoughts in my head and stuff like that, they got worse. Um, and I have attempted to take my life at least 6 times.
When were you finally diagnosed?
I wasn't diagnosed until 4 years ago in 2020 when I
Uh,
took myself to see a psychiatrist. And it wasn't until after I tried to take my life by doing an insane amount of cocaine that I did that. But it took, I mean, like I said, 9, so 21 years for somebody to give me a diagnosis that I could work with. Now, I've tried the drugs that they have for schizophrenia. They don't really work. They work sometimes, and then, well, it's schizophrenia. They're not going to work 100%. Um, but I manage now, and like you said in the intro, I found music, and music really, really helped me through some of the darkest times that I've had in my life. And it was after my last attempt in 2020. Um, I realized that I needed to take this music, and I needed to find other people that were just as hurt as me, just as, down on their luck, downtrodden, and had nobody else. And if the only thing I could do was introduce them to music that might be able to help them, then I did my job.
so when you were 9, like were you interested in music growing up all the time? Did you play instruments?
Yeah, so I mean, the one, I can't say the one thing, but one of the biggest things that I got from my mom was the love of music. I mean, she listened to everything, everything. It didn't matter what it was. And for somebody who grew up in, was born and raised in that area as well, she listened to a wide variety. She actually was an advertiser for an oldie station in the short time that we lived in Maine. Was 92.3 WGUI is what it was. So yeah, no, I've always loved music. Um, I My mom has a video, well, probably doesn't anymore because this was like way back in the day. Um, we went to one of her friends' houses for a cookout. He had the guy had a drum set in his garage. That's the first thing I noticed. That's the only thing I cared about. I didn't care about the other kids playing. I saw that drum set and I was like, I don't care what I have to do. I'm gonna play with that thing before I leave here. And my mom is at one point is videoing me, and I'm doing a drum solo to some 80s rock song, and she's like, she thought that I was just like, acting like I was literally doing it. I really wish I could see that because from what I understand, it was pretty cool. But
So
yeah, no,
clearly clearly you had some inborn talent. You had innate talent to
Yeah,
be a musician. Like that was part of your gift, obviously. I have a couple questions to ask about the schizophrenia if you're okay with that.
yeah, absolutely. No, I am 110% willing to talk to anybody about it because it's not talked about enough, and it's one of the mental disorders that will literally kill somebody, and it's not talked about. So yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So at 9, right? We don't know anything about the world. We don't know anything about anything. We're really still figuring out fantasy, reality, daydreaming, all of that stuff. How often were these hallucinations happening, and at what point did they go from visual to auditory? Did they swap back and forth? How did that, and were there command hallucinations that ordered you to hurt yourself, or was it just, I need to get out of this pain?
So, um, when it first started out, we can pretty much say they started with around puberty. Is the visual hallucinations started? Auditory hallucinations didn't start until about 16. Is when my mom went on that trip. That's when it sounded like people were knocking on the door and walking around the house and beating the side of the house, and there was nobody there.
So
Um,
you were scared.
yeah, well, yeah, I was scared. As for it commanding me to hurt myself, it's never really been that. It's been more because of the what I've experienced in life. So it uses my failures and things that I feel I failed at in my life, and on my what I call my darkest days, um, it would overwhelm me, and I wouldn't. I wanted it to stop, and
The schizophrenia voice is very judgmental.
very judgmental, and it's very, very good at getting your attention even when you are trying not to listen to it. It really is. And I doing this well, actually starting the podcasts that I do, I've actually got to talk to other people who have had or who have schizophrenia, and they'll be like, I thought I was the only one that felt that. I thought I was the only one that heard that. And for the most part, when it comes to schizophrenia, your hallucinations can literally be broken down by shadow people, people in the corner across the street, and voices that sound eerily familiar to anybody that you've ever wronged. It sounds eerily familiar to yourself. It is reminiscent of every failure you've ever met, amplified by about 1,000 people in your mind at one time. And that's what people don't understand. And there are times that it still happens. It actually happens often. And I'm really, really nice to people. I try to be nice to people, but I also warn them, listen, I've already got so much going on today up here. If I yell at you, if I disrespect you in any way, I am sorry. But I'm just forewarning you. And I hate that I have to give that, but I mean it's more respectful of me to let somebody know that it might happen rather than just busting off on them and them being like, "What did I do?"
Absolutely, preparing people. But I want anybody who watches this video, which is why I think it's really important to have the video too, is, you are a person who is living with schizophrenia, and you are not what people expect. You're a handsome guy, you're well spoken, you're talented, you're a pastor, you have created a life for yourself, you're a father, right? You're all of these things. What do people think about in your mind when they hear schizophrenia? I mean, I can tell you from my perspective as a mental health professional, but I'm wondering from you, what have you heard?
Well, so um, it doesn't take a lot for me to open up about having schizophrenia. Like I said, this is one of the mental illnesses that really doesn't get talked about. I mean, even with the breakthroughs that we've had in mental health, it's still something that's not talked about, and it is always shown in such a bad light in Hollywood. Hollywood always uses the schizophrenic person to kill people because the voices in their head said so, and that's not the truth. How many serial killers have had schizophrenia?
We just talked about that in your podcast.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the thing is, you know, I don't know where it became popular or cool to use schizophrenia as, this number one seller for a killer. But when I tell people I have schizophrenia, the first thing they say is, "Well, you don't act like somebody who has schizophrenia." I said, "Well, how does somebody with schizophrenia act?" And then they'll hit me with the Hollywood talking to themselves, mumbling, and, you know, really isolated, closed off, and wanting to kill somebody. Listen, there are plenty of times that I've wanted to kill somebody, and it's never happened.
So, one of the things I think is also really fascinating is like any mental illness, it occurs on a spectrum, right? And so we have to just say that there are not a lot of people who have such a severe diagnosis who can go without medication. You're also really very well related, meaning you make eye contact, you have good social skills. A lot of times we don't see that in people who have schizophrenia, right? So there are things about you, whether it's your innate resilience or whether it was the way that you were raised, there's something about you that made your journey a little bit different.
Right.
Would you acknowledge that?
No, absolutely. And I mean, I've got to credit it to my family, and probably not in the best way that you would credit it to a family member, but um, the way that I was kind of outcast as a family member was what made me decide that whatever I had, because like I said, I didn't get diagnosed until 4 years ago. Um, I decided that whatever I had was not going to be my reason that I treated somebody else like they were garbage or I outcast them. Um, I've always been very, very outspoken, and I think a lot of it, I credit a lot of it to the what I say and how I say it is because of the schizophrenia, because it's made me to where I'm gonna say what I need to say and what I have to say, and nobody is going to stop me. I've been stopped by so many people in my life. You can't do this. You can't do that. Whatever it may be. You're not
So
going to tell me that I can't say something. I will say it.
so I'm going to ask probably one of the biggest questions that people want to know when someone is dealing with schizophrenia, and I'm going to ask that question right after this break.
Okay.
Okay, so we're back. And so here's a question, Kyle, that I really want to know, and I think a lot of people would want to know too. So you're not on medication, so the thoughts are in your head all the time, right?
Yeah.
How do you quiet them, or how do you separate them out so that you can get on with your day?
So it really all depends on the day. When I wake up, if I wake up and the voices are minimal, or I don't hear anything when I first wake up, or I don't see anything when I first wake up, that's a general uh of how the day is going to be, but if I wake up with just everything overwhelming, and I've seen three people that aren't there before I even make it to my living room, then it's going to be a bad day. And the way that I deal with it, honestly, and this is controversial to a lot of people, but I smoke medical marijuana. Um, on top of that, I meditate. Um, when it gets really, really bad, that's when I find, coincidentally, that's when I find most of my creativeness. So, the episode that I just did, or that I just finished writing, um, on racism in America, that was on a 3-day stretch of just constantly getting hammered in the head by all these voices. And I mean, while I was writing it, I don't know why you're writing that. It's not going to be any good. Nobody's going to like it. So what did I do? I literally wrote a whole segment on why I wasn't qualified to do this topic. And I let it all out, you know. Well, why should I do it? I'm white. My race has caused over half of the stuff that's happened in this. Why should I do it? Well, because nobody else is.
So your strategy is to kind of like, answer the question,
Yep.
right? Just go into it, answer the question, and move beyond, like put it to rest. So tell me a little bit how you got involved in. You talked a little bit about becoming a DJ. Now you're a pastor, right? And you just released an album.
I did. I did.
So I mean, this is like amazing. Tell us about all of this stuff.
Well, so I've actually never been to seminary. I am ordained, as you would call it, but I am still a practicing pastor. One of my shows, Sunday Evening Reset, is literally it's faith based. That's why it's Sunday Evening Reset, because you're taking Sunday evening to reset from the bad week that you've had and get ready to go into a new week with a fresh perspective, with a fresh spirit, however you look at it. Um, I forgot your question because I just went on about that. Oh, yeah. So
But it makes sense because you're just talking about really what's the premise of this show too, is like changing your mindset, right? Going from chaos, from mayhem to a different mindset. And you're helping people do that every Sunday night,
right,
right?
yeah,
Just resetting for the week.
yeah, and so uh, like I said, it's largely faith based. So it's a lot of what the Bible says about certain things. So like this past week I did life's purpose. And that's a big one because who knows what your life purpose is, right? And I said in the episode, you're expected to to have a job picked out, a career for your life picked out by 18. You're expected to be fluent in that job by 25. You're expected to be married by 30, expected to have kids by 35. And all of that, you have to find your life purpose, what you're here for. And you know, what I tell people is it doesn't have to happen. It's not going to happen all at once. You know, whether it's finding your life purpose or battling something like schizophrenia, you have to take it one day at a time. You can't rush anything like this. I wish that I could rush the cure or uh, a way to get these thoughts out of my head, but I can't. So I take it one day at a time. And your faith in anything that you do, you have to take it one day at a time. Because if you don't, you're just overwhelming yourself. You're going to burn out. And what good are you at finding your purpose or completing your purpose if you're burnt out and you don't want to be it? You know?
So I've often talked on this show and on some of my other videos about how music really is therapy and how music has saved me in so many different ways. What are the musical influences that really had an impact on you? What were the songs that you were listening to, or what was the music that you were hearing or practicing that really had an impact on you that helped you?
Well, so being from the Midwest and Southern Indiana, obviously one of my biggest is country. And you hear it a lot in the album that I released. But rock, I try to add everything, like, because I love everything. I love all genres. If I could take classical and just mix it with, I would. And I have before, actually. It was I can't remember what it is now. But I mean, you know, music does heal. And the way that I do that is, for one, making my own music, and playing it for others. It was a really, really weird concept to get behind when I first started recording. You know, I wanted people's opinions, but I didn't want them to know it was me. So that's another part of my schizophrenic mind, right? I wanted the criticism, but I didn't want it if they knew that it was for me.
Wow.
I wanted them to be real. I wanted them to be honest, because I knew if I was like, yeah, hey, this is a new song that I recorded. If it sucked, they'd be like, oh yeah, no, it was good. It was good. Yeah. But if I told them, I was like, so what I did was, the first one that I did was That's Life, which coincidentally was actually just supposed to be a theme song for my podcast. And when I took it and I shared it with people, and I was like, hey, there's this new artist who's got these songs that haven't been released yet. He sent them to me because he knows I'm a DJ. He asked me if I would, have people listen to him, blah, 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 blah. And then they would give me their honest opinion. And I said, all right, cool. Well, that's mine. So thank you for all of that. But because of the amount of praise that I got for That's Life, and it was really just, I mean, it's, the chorus is That's life. It'll cut, it'll heal. It's the pain and the joy that make it real. It'll take you high, it'll throw you low, but you keep on dancing. You never let go. Through the storm, through the night, or through the fight, keep your head held high. That's life, right? And like I
Yeah.
said, it was supposed to be just a theme song. And because of the amount of people that were like, oh my God, since you sent me that song, I've literally listened to it every day. That
It
that
becomes
that
like
was
an anthem, right? It becomes an anthem for people. I was listening to the album this morning and I texted you and I'm like, wow, not only is the music great, but the lyrics are what really caught me, which is, for me, music is, yes, it's got to have a great beat, but it's the lyrics that catch me, which is why, like, I think everybody loves Eminem because his lyrics are just amazing, but he's a great storyteller. And in your songs, you're absolutely telling a story. So when you write a song, do you get any sense of like catharsis? Like, I'm getting all of this out and I feel better.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said earlier, some of my darkest days are some of my most creative. So that being said, some of those songs were written when I couldn't get any peace whatsoever. Um, the better person, because I had this voice in my head keep saying, or keep telling me, uh, to be the bigger person. And I don't, it wasn't for anything that even mattered. I think I got upset with somebody and oh, be the bigger person, be the bigger person. And finally, I literally said to myself out loud, why the hell would I want to be the better person? The better person, or the bigger person? The bigger person just turns around and just lets it happen without any consequence, without, somebody saying, hey, what you did hurt me. How about instead of being the better person or the bigger person, I be the better person? And I turn around and I say, hey, what you did hurt me, but I'm letting you know because I want to stop the cycle of hurt. I want to stop what you're doing. I want you to recognize what you are doing to hurt somebody. In which case, you doing that and calling them out and hopefully changing their thought process makes you the better person and not the bigger person.
I listened to that song this morning and I thought it was just absolutely amazing. I was thinking about it. I sent it to my son and I'm like, you got to listen to the lyrics of this song. So where can people get this album? And are you going to tour? Like, what are you going to do with it?
Um, as a as for touring, probably not anything anytime soon. Um, because I I've worked in the music industry, and I know how hard it is for people to actually get their start. So I paid for all of my music to be distributed. I'm not signed to a label. The label says my company name on it, you know. Um, but I did it all myself, and I did it that way so that way nobody could ever step in and say, "Well, I helped you get there." No, you didn't. So as for touring, probably not for a little bit. There might be opportunities in the future. You never know. With the connections that I have, the people that I know from DJing, I know that a lot of them have heard my music, but I can't really say for sure as to where to find my music. Anywhere you get your music, literally, it is on every single platform from YouTube Music, Spotify, Amazon, you name it. You just type in my name or type in Kyle Field's Year of the Champion, which is the name of my debut album, and it'll pop right up.
So give us at least a little teaser. You're not going to be at some dive bar in Orlando that we can go and like hear you do these songs, like nothing coming up, or you never know.
No, no, no.
No, that's a
Eh,
no.
You. My co-
That's a no.
my competition is down there. The barn in Sanford, that's my competition. Cowboys in Orlando, that was my competition for the longest time when I was a country club DJ. We don't go there.
So
Um,
here's something that's really, really special though, and I have to say this touched my heart in anticipation of our interview today. You sent me a song that you
yeah.
wrote.
I wrote you a song for your show, and it's called "Flip the Script." I had uh, actually I had just got done writing the last part 3 of Racism in America, and I looked at my phone and I was like, "Oh, I'm doing this podcast tomorrow." Well, I'm not going to come empty-handed, so I sat down, and I make all of my own beats. So like even when it sounds like a full band in the background, I made all of that. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so I sat down last night, and one of the phrases that you said on one of the interviews was flip the script. So I took that and I just ran with it. I had fun with it.
I heard it. I loved it. I have to tell you really like how touched I am and how much it really meant to me that you would take your time and your talent and you would direct it in that way. I can't, words can't even describe it. If you were here, I would give you a big hug if you would let me. But we do have the song uploaded, so I want to play some of the song because I think it's just so freaking cool. So,
Yeah,
Travis, you want to? All right, so we're gonna listen to the song a little bit.
Every morning feels the same, another round of doubt and blame. The world says I'm supposed to quit, but I won't listen, I won't sit. They want me stuck in a loop of fear, but I'm done with the noise, it's crystal clear. I won't let the past define my road. I'm taking the wheel, I'm in control. I'm gonna flip the script, rewrite the scene, change the story, chase my dreams. No more waiting for things to change. I'm stepping up, I'm breaking the chains.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh, flip the script, I'll flip the script.
How awesome is that? I mean, thank you for sharing that. That's going to be like my new anthem. I have to tell you, Eminem's in trouble because, I have Rap God on auto repeat and, this is the one that I think is going to replace it because yes, we are one moment away from changing everything. And a lot of it, as you've just said in this entire interview, has to do with your mindset. If you let those voices get in your head and you allow them to control you, or if you allow people who have had expectations of you control you, you've lost it. Right?
absolutely. Absolutely. No, and you're completely right. You know, there have been numerous times that I could have just given up and said, "No, I'm done. I'm gonna go ahead and submit to these voices in my head." And with an illness like schizophrenia, it's some days it's really really hard to just get up out of bed, and I do it. I do it now for me, but I also do it for the people who are counting on me to release a new episode of the Survivor series and find out, who survived some tragic stuff, or are waiting for me to release another episode of That's Life, who is helping them through daily, everyday struggles like burnout, vulnerability, or whoever is waiting on me to hear my new sermon for Sunday evening reset. I'm not just living for myself. I'm living for my kids, and I'm living for the people that I know personally that I am helping with everything that I'm doing.
Kyle, thank you so much for being here today. Now, where can people find, what show did we specifically record our episodes on if people want to listen to our episodes?
So let me grab my phone real quick, actually. So we did both That's Life with Kyle, which is available anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, all that. And then the Survivor series, which is, self-explanatory. I talk about people who survived the worst of the worst, or if not really survived, but help it. So like the racism episode, I call survivors people that didn't necessarily survive, but help push the talk of civil rights in a further direction. Those are survivors. Those are heroes to me. And I really, I have a lot, I wouldn't say fun. The Survivor series probably means the most to me out of all of them, because I do have deeper conversations there. I ask harder questions, because these are the questions that the victims aren't getting answers to. And while I don't necessarily have anybody that is able to just spew answers out for the questions, at least I'm asking them. For far too long in this country, nobody has asked the questions. Why is it happening? How are we still allowing it to happen? How do we still have people in office who are allowing systemic racism and all this other stuff? I covered missing and murdered Indigenous women too. People need to know.
It's fascinating stuff, and you have a podcast about it. So check out Kyle Fields. And listen, we're going to blow up this song. Let's just flip the script, guys. So I'll share the song. You share the song. I think it's amazing. I think it's a new anthem for people. If what you're doing isn't working, do something else, right? Just change it up. It's all about the mindset, guys. Thank you, Kyle Fields, for joining us today. We'll see you on the next episode of From Mayhem to Mindset with Dr. Laura. Thanks for joining us on From Mayhem to Mindset. If you found today's episode helpful, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and leave a 5-star review. It really helps spread the message. Want to dive deeper? Check out my book, Wisdom from the Universe, available now on Amazon. And if you're looking for a speaker to inspire and transform, I'd love to connect. Visit www.lauraellick.com to learn more. Remember, you don't have to just survive, you can thrive. See you next time.